What a pleasure to be here.
Oh, man, the stage dressing, the set kind of gets more elaborate every year. I like that we are hovered over by this strange, dangerous orb. And if this thing drops on us, I feel like it's a reasonable way to go. Maybe as the last talk on the main stage at Slush this year.
And then Slush 100, congratulations to everyone who participated.
Oh yes, obviously if we do get crushed by the sphere, then the Slush 100 will be slightly delayed, but either way, we're going to get to see that next.
So, I'm Laura, I lead startups in EMEA at OpenAI.
And Cal Henderson, previously co-founder and CTO of Slack, the workplace messaging software. Which I co-founded and then left a year and a half ago after our sale to Salesforce. And I'm currently retired, which has been fantastic, but doing some investing and advising and thinking about what's next as well and what's exciting to work on in the kind of future of technology.
Well, I know you're all wondering what is next. We're not going to ask that today, but we're all very excited and eagerly awaiting to hear whenever you're ready to share. So if anyone was waiting for that, we're not going to be going into it. However, I'm super excited to be here today because it is my 7th Slush, and I think this is the best startup conference in the world. Cal, why don't you tell me what your Slush stories are?
Yeah, I'm a long-time attendee.
This is which Slush of yours?
Either my 8th or my 9th. It's kind of hard to figure out. I've been here many times, and I think what really sets Slush apart for me as an event is it is so incredibly founder-focused. Because it's a non-profit, it's run by volunteers, it's run by students. It just has a very different energy. It is very much a conference for founders and about founders, and it's kind of incredible to see what people are able to get out of an event like this compared to a lot of other industry conferences which feel much more transactional and are about pitching and broadcasting and selling your startup. I see a lot of value that people are able to get out of Slush and have over the years, and I see that myself, but I see that in people attending for the first time. And Laura, this is. You've been here many times. What excites you and attracts you to Slush, and what makes you keep coming back?
So I entirely agree. I think this is one of the conferences that truly allows for idea exchange. It's not one where the speakers come and go, but actually builds community and an ecosystem. I see some of the best founders and investors who come on stage and share true knowledge and what their path is, some of the learnings that I've had and how I've thought about what the startup industry looks like is because of the open and honest discussions people have here. It also is, I really truly believe in the power of network, and I've met a lot of people when I was starting out years ago who then became my mentors or advisors or founders that I ended up doing a lot of work with, and I got to grow my understanding of the industry, how I think about what people should be doing, how people should be talking to each other, because of connections that were truly meaningful and informal that were done right here. And some of you are going to be meeting your future investors, some of you are going to be meeting your future co-founders. In my case, I met my partner, so it's happy anniversary to me, because it's our anniversary today. And I couldn't have had more out of this conference.
Yeah, I think it is. When I look back over my early career, I think 20 years ago, there was when people were first kind of building things at scale, a true scale on the web. A lot of the culture change that happened about 20 years ago was people starting to share stories about how they were doing it. 25 years ago, it was a company that has the secret sauce, that knows how to build something and doesn't talk about it. But I think I've seen over the last 20 years, people become more and more open and sharing with what they've learned, and especially the most valuable way to do that is to talk about things that have gone wrong, mistakes that they've made, lessons that they've learned the real hard way, whether that's because their company failed or they just made a major misstep and strategic mistakes. And I think it's the amalgamation of all of those learnings from mistakes that people are so happy to share at conferences or a conference just like Slush. I've seen today more than ever many people in the audience taking notes at different sessions where they're learning practical, useful advice from people who have been in the trenches and gone through it and are maybe on their second or third startup and are sharing the lessons that they've learned. And And a lot of what we want to talk about today, I think, is what it's like to be a founder or to be starting a company now versus last year versus the year before, and how that's changed. And I think, a lot of that is that there's so much that people have learned and shared, and mistakes that we don't need to make all over again. And we can, to free up our time so that we can make fresh and exciting new mistakes that the generation after us can learn from. And I think, maybe we should probably talk about AI, because that's something that's happened a lot in the last couple of years as well.
But going off what you just said, you built an enduring company that has, in my work experience, made a lot of our lives a lot better in how we operate in the enterprise, how we communicate with each other, how we all come together and collaborate through Slack. It's an incredible company, but how would you say that, what changes do you think you're making now as you're thinking about building a new company compared to how you started off building Slack?
I think that's a great question. That's very much how I'm thinking about it as I think about what I do in the future. It's like my entire career have been a software engineer. I love making software. That's why I do it. I can't imagine doing anything else. But when I think about the parameters around what I want to do in the future, it's a lot of what do I want to spend time on and what don't I want to spend time on. And there's more. It is always the best time to start a new software company. Yep. It's better this year than it was last year. It's better last year than it was the year before. Ignoring the kind of ups and downs of the economic environment you're operating in, it is always better to do it now than later. There has been more of a basis to build on top of, more users, more revenue, more customers. It's more and more of an exciting time, or ability to build faster. But I think what I've learned through all of the different companies that I've worked at is what I love and what I don't love. And I think the thing that I'm most excited about going from a large, successful public company to starting something new is working in a small team. And I think one of the big advantages of the changes over the last couple of years is you can get a lot more done with fewer and fewer people. I think one of the general lessons from startups that's been true for a long time is that I have this general challenge as an engineer that I see every problem and I think, I could fix that by making some software. And it's an easy trap to fall into, thinking I could do a better version of the way we do recruiting, or the way we're doing planning seems stupid, I could solve that with a new piece of software. And yeah, maybe you could, but you can't boil the ocean.
I'm sure you could, by the way.
I shouldn't. Don't encourage me. The best way to be effective as a startup, as a leader, is to find the few things that matter and focus as much time as possible on those few things. And I think one of the big changes that I've seen over the last few years is greater leverage, because you're able to take all of the other things that are required for running a company, like raising money and doing payroll and having an office and doing all of the kind of administrative back-end things which are important but undifferentiated, and more automation there. You need to spend less time on these things and spend as much time as possible on the thing that is unique about what you're doing. Unique to the problem that you're solving, to the industry and a challenge that you're going after, and being able to focus. And I think that more than ever, it's possible to be very narrowly focused and put all of your effort with a small group of people into solving that challenge.
I entirely agree.
Yeah. I think the other thing that is maybe more unique to me and my experience, and it is one of the biggest impacts on my life for sure over the last decade, has been having kids, as it often is when people have kids. And it's changed my perspective a bit on certainly how I spend my time, and it's made me a lot better manager of my time. But it's also made me realize that whatever it is I do next, I want it to be something that doesn't encourage people to spend more time on their phones, that allows people to get out into the real world, or makes them more productive so they're able to spend time on other things. And I think that feels like a shift for me from 20 years ago, where it was, how can we get people to use software more? How can we get people to use the web when it was nascent? Yeah. And I think that's a turning point for me of how can we make people have better lives, and that probably isn't pressing buttons in their hands.
Well, what I love about this, first of all, I love to see the young generation. that are, first of all, growing up digitally native and are using the tools at a very young age. So a lot of the founders that I speak to, especially in Europe, whether it is in Spain, in the Nordics, or in Greece, where I grew up in, they're starting to code from like age 10, 12. And then by 17, they're really ready to start a company. And then we're seeing everything from YC batches to all the investors across Europe talking about really young founders who understand technology, they understand their audience, they know how to create content, they're very technical. And so I'm super excited about the next generation that is starting from technology first. And in my opinion, starting from not just go-to-market specialists and technical people coming together, but a great go-to-market engine that starts from technology and being more technical as a founder for AI native companies is actually essential right now.
You think you think it's more important than ever to be technical? I would have thought your position would be somewhat the opposite, given that, you know, with tools like Lovable, that you can build prototypes and build, Replit, that you could build prototypes faster than ever without needing to be technical. So do you think, you think founders need to be more technical now?
I think this is the beauty of the world that we're in, that the tools that are being created, whether it is Codex on OpenAI or Lovable or any of the other coding agents, it allows everyone to do a lot more with code, everyone to have access to the technical tools, and then the people who are the most technical to build generational companies that can democratize that. And how do you take the technology and build application layer on top? It is great to see the people who truly understand the technology and how to bring it to everyone else who isn't. And our job is to create incredible models. I often say my number one job, more important than anything else, is to listen to feedback, is to listen to all of you who are founders about what it is that you want to build, how it is that you want to use the models, and then tell us what the use cases are, where you're reaching the bleeding edge of the model, and where we should be going further. And that is your most important job as well, to actually use this. And by the way, I have to say this over and over again. I have the best job in the world. I could not be luckier, because my job is A, to work with incredible people, and my team is just magnificent. We could not have been luckier with the people we have in the team. They're extremely mission aligned and oriented, and we work first and foremost by what it is that people want to build on the startup side. But also, we just go out in the field, we spend all day with founders, and we listen to what works, what doesn't work, and then we take that back in the roadmap to make sure we build it so that you can create value, economic value, real value, so that people can solve problems every day in their lives. And these technical solutions, AI products, need to have a technical founder who understands how to leverage that technology, how to push it further, how to make us go further and build it for them. And then sometimes I even see some of the sales teams actually be more technical than ever before, because they're selling a technical problem to non-technical users. So if you're building a company, be technical. And if you're bringing that to people who aren't, good on you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd like to go back to something you said earlier about younger founders.
Yes.
I met yesterday with a 14-year-old founder here at the conference, probably one of the youngest here. And I'd say that one of the shifts that I have seen over the last few years is more founders who are kind of entrepreneurs first and are looking for problems to solve, versus the kind of older archetype of somebody who has worked in an industry and sees a way that it could be improved and then builds a company around it. And I think that is, for me, that's a very positive shift in just letting people know that being an entrepreneur is a choice earlier on. You know, it's something I stumbled into later in my career that I never thought I would do, but I just love to see that enthusiasm. And given that for more or less anybody who's had any success, it has been a bumpy road with a bunch of failures beforehand, whether that's, you know, failed companies or just a bumpy path to success with the companies that are successful. I think the earlier you start that process, the quicker that you can learn. And so, you know, the getting people who are young and motivated, I'd love to get my kids, you know, as motivated as some of the founders that I've met here this week, that early to be able to start iterating and start learning. And, you know, doing a startup isn't for everybody, but it's probably for a lot more people than have ever been exposed to it.
And I mean, again, this is one of the beauties of working at OpenAI. I think we take to heart our mission, which is building AGI that benefits everyone. And it's a very serious mission that we have. We know that it will benefit everyone by people building things that matter. So I've seen a lot more people go to hackathons because they're getting their hands on the models. They're trying things out. And you can do that so much faster now. And a lot of the work that we've done is to make sure that we're shipping a lot, we're shipping fast, and we're doing it based on feedback and what people are saying matters to them. B, we're saying that we are making sure that as people try things out, it is accessible, and that lowers the risk, because if you are, and obviously C, we're decreasing the prices continuously. So if you look at the prices of the models a year or two ago, it's orders of magnitude cheaper. So now, with, as you were saying earlier, with a smaller team, you have your coworkers who are other team members, but also tools like Codex and other AI tools, whatever on the application layer you might be using, who are now working with you. It is a lot faster to go from idea to prototype to shipping. It is a lot cheaper. It is lower risk. So whether you're younger or older, whether you're a new founder or a repeat founder, you can do it with a speed that we have never seen before. And prototyping things, whether it's in a hackathon, and all of you should be going to hackathons, we welcome you and we'll give you credits, or it is because you're building it in a team, in a co-working space, in your garage, whatever it is, and then you're showing up to us or to investors or angel investors, which I want to ask you about, then go out and try it, because it is so exciting to see what is possible.
In many ways, I see this as the continued trend, as kind of like amazing and revolutionary as AI is, the current round of AI models. It's a continuing trend of tools that just help you move faster and lower the barrier to entry for doing a startup. I mean, in some ways, very similar to when AWS and the public clouds came around. Yeah. Prior to that, it was a huge capital cost upfront to be able to start anything of scale. And that just removed that barrier and enabled a whole class of companies that were riskier and were more speculative at the start, but with lowering that bar to get started, you just enable a class of companies that would have been too risky to invest in to get to that proof point of, can this be a business? And I feel that this is another kind of step up, a step change that will enable a lot of kinds of businesses that would have been too risky or take too long to build and test and hypothesize are able to be done faster than ever. Now, the downsides to that, if you call it a downside, is we're going to see a lot more companies failing quicker, proving that they aren't the kind of business that can exist right now. But I think that's exciting. I think that faster iteration is how we get to better, valuable, long-term businesses that are hugely valuable to their customers as well as the companies building them.
But this is what's incredible, that at least internally, we've surveyed our customers, and we've seen that on the tools that people are using to develop, Codex, which we launched in the latest Codex model, which we launched in the summer, has had 10x growth since August. So a lot more people are actually trying out things. There's 70% more pull requests. So people are shipping faster, are solving problems faster, they're patching issues that they find. And there's a lot more job satisfaction because they can complete tasks in a time that wasn't possible before. So you're meeting deadlines, and it leaves you more time to actually do stuff that matters to you. And you want to try it, whether you're just a developer starting out or sitting in a very large enterprise and you're working on 15 things at the same time. So it's incredible to see how much people are solving problems, either new problems because new technology is there, or old problems that they were not able to solve well with SaaS and are now able to do a much better job because of AI.
Yeah, but it's also additive. It's not that if we can write code faster with Codex, it doesn't mean there are fewer software engineering jobs. There are more software engineering jobs now than there were. But also, it's not because Codex is taking away people that were using Cursor. It is all additive, and this isn't a zero-sum market. It is a
100%.
It is a positive-sum market, and that's pretty exciting.
Could not agree more. So going back to, you're a legendary founder. You're technical yourself. You're seeing so much in the market. Tell me a little bit about how you angel invest and how you think about giving back to the community.
Yeah, it's interesting. I spoke on the founder stage, the Founders Day a couple of days ago, with Otto, founder Swarmia, who I angel invested in, having met at Slush 7 or 8 years ago.
See? You can
And I
meet
think
amazing people here.
there are a lot of stories like that of, when you meet in an environment like Slush in a non-transactional way, it's not like you're running around trying to find somebody to invest in you, but building relationships for the long term. We met because we had built kind of competing products at some point in the past, and we had a discussion around that, and we became friends. And then years later, when somebody starts a new startup, or it might be 6 months later, and I have relevant skills to contribute, to be able to advise, then that's when those kind of relationships happen. I also, my Slush buddy, there's this program where speakers get a local buddy to kind of help them out through the conference and show them around the city. My buddy from 2018, I reconnected with, and I'm an advisor at his company now. Whatever that is, 7 years later, as he's built it, was inspired by working at Slush to go on and start a company, and because we'd built that relationship, and he understood how I could be of value there, and I understood who he was as a founder, it helped set that up. And I think the relationships that you make at an event like this for the long term can be hugely valuable. And you need to get to know people and not view it as transactional. It's very transparent when you meet somebody and they just pitch you hard as soon as you meet them. And it's much more relationship based.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pause 1 second because I have to say, this whole conference, which is run by students and headed by Aino and Ellen, is working, some of our Slush buddies are volunteers, they're all students, and they've done an incredible job. So before we end, can we have a round of applause for the Slush volunteers, please? I mean, I've never seen a better run conference ever in the world, so thank you all.
It is the best run conference I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of conferences.
And speaking of students, again, I run startups in EMEA at OpenAI, and I'm so proud of what is coming out of Europe, and specifically because of universities, because people keep talking about, America and American founders and everyone has to go to San Francisco. I'm here to tell you, actually, we have incredibly technical talent right here in Europe and unbelievable companies that are built here in consumer, in enterprise, in gaming, in everything in between. So the companies I see here are now competing in a global scale and stage, and investors from around the world are coming here. Companies around the world are trying to hire technical talent right here in Europe. And we have more STEM graduates in the amazing universities here in Europe than either the US or China. So I'm expecting that next year, when we come back on the stage, we're going to be hearing a lot more about fantastic, technical, European founders building right here in Europe. Do you agree?
I agree. I think, there is the caliber of the talent, the founders, engineers, product designers, marketers, salespeople that I meet here at Slush is exactly the same as in San Francisco. I'm based in San Francisco. It is the same talent is here, and I think
we'll lure you to Europe at some point.
The opportunity is greater than ever. I think I'd just like to leave with maybe a little bit of advice for people.
Yes, please.
Laura. Oh, I was going to ask you for your advice.
Well, my advice is to dream big, not to solve very specific problems, but actually look at how problems are fitting into a value chain and try to impact outcomes and solve things that are really leading to results. Thinking big, iterate fast, ship fast, continuously ask for feedback. Don't just give it, but use everyone around you and the ecosystem you build of advisors. Use our models in a way that actually is advancing your technology, and have advocacy and agency, because the job you're doing is for someone else, so make sure you're doing the best job for your customers. What's your advice?
I think the most important skill for any founder is storytelling, is the ability to tell your story to potential customers, to potential investors, to your employees, to yourself. The most important thing you can do is explain why what you're doing is important, why it's exciting, and why people should believe in you and join you on your mission. It is a skill that you develop by practicing it, by doing it again and again. It is difficult to start out. I'm originally British. We don't like to talk about ourselves, especially in a way that we do anything good. That seems disgusting, but it is really important as a founder to learn to talk about what you're doing, to sell people on your vision, because if you can get people to believe in what you're doing, then you can accomplish anything.
Best advice from one of the best founders ever. Thank you so much, and thank you, Slush.
Thank you for having us, Slush.